Everyone ready? Yeah, if you guys want to get in here, this way. Okay. We weren't going to sit, we were sitting.
You're good standing
We're
up.
good, okay. All right, thank you all for coming. Good afternoon, my name is Andrew Ansbrough. I'm the president of the Uniformed Firefighter Association of Greater New York. I represent 20,000 active and retired firefighters in New York City. I'm joined by Bobby Eustace, our vice president, Noah Muller, our Manhattan trustee, and TJ McManus from the law firm here that represents the UFA General Counsel. As we've heard, the city has finally released 68 boxes of records related to the toxins in the air on Ground Zero. Records that have been suppressed for years and years, and as New York City claimed, they could not even be found. New York City firefighters demand to know who in New York City government hid those documents all the way back in the beginning and continued to keep those documents held all these years. On 9/11, I went to my first fire. While I was on one end of the building in the collapse, my father was at the other side of the Trade Center with Rudy Giuliani. They hunkered down at 75 Barclay Street, and my father, who was involved in the police department during the bombing of the World Trade Center bombing in '93, announced that to Giuliani that I know there's asbestos in the building. You could actually see it in the air. You could see it it's sparkling in the sunlight outside. And at that point in time, building engineers went and got those paper masks and actually handed one to Giuliani, my father, and everyone else in the room. Rudy Giuliani knew before the second tower even came down that there were toxins in the air. And somehow, over the next few hours and days, that message was suppressed. They had real testing done. And when that testing was done, it was suppressed and everyone was told the air was safe. People would have made different choices. You know, we all know at this point how many people are sick. There's 140,000 people in the World Trade Center healthcare program. We really need to know who lied then and who kept this lie, alive by hiding all the information that we've been asking for. This FOIL was asking for all the testing documents and memos related to the 9/11 toxins, along with City Hall's memos from the fall of 2001, including a memo sent to Deputy Mayor Harding that estimated there would be 10,000 claims against the city at a minimum because of the exposure, and they knew it. And they chose to lie, and they chose to hide these documents. We need to know who lied. By now, we all know what toxins were in the air, unless, of course, these documents show there are things that we didn't know. But we need to know who lied initially. I think it's important for people to know that there were people back then that chose to protect the city's interests and not protect the interests of New York City firefighters, other responders, and the civilians that were down there. That wasn't the only betrayal. Years later, we had to go down to Washington to fight for the World Trade Center healthcare program. Had these documents been available then, it could have helped prove our case to get that life-saving healthcare more available quickly. It would have been less of a fight. It would have also helped the doctors to help diagnose people. Had they had all the documents at the time, we could be looking, right as we speak, we could be looking at more illnesses that have latency periods of 25, 30 years based on chemical exposures. These are all things that we could have been looking at and studying for the last 20 years, and the city chose to keep them hidden. So now we have 68 boxes that have surfaced. Only 24 of them have been reviewed. We need to have all of these boxes open and made available. As I've been told, only 24 of the 68 have been made available. We also need to know who in city management has decided to keep these boxes hidden for all of these years. Constantly we've asked for these documents. At the end of the de Blasio administration, we asked for these documents and they never surfaced. So the 140,000 people in the World Trade Center healthcare program deserve to know. Their families deserve to know. The families of those that have died deserve to know. My father passed away 2.5 years ago from World Trade Center related illnesses. My family needs to know that the people that lied to everyone else, again, my father was exposed from day one, but everyone else that was exposed, they need to know. Their families need to know who lied to them. They need to be held accountable. But the firefighters in the firehouses in New York City and the other first responders in New York City need to know that, God forbid, something else happen. And the city knows that they've got to decide between their liability and what's best for the long-term health and lives of New York City firefighters and other first responders, that they'll make the right choice. The city needs to be upfront and accountable for what has been done in the past, but also what could happen in the future. New York City firefighters deserve to know that the city will be transparent and accountable God forbid anything else happen in the future. So I would like to thank City Councilperson Gail Brewer for getting us to this point, and I'd also like to thank 9/11 Health Watch for working with us to get these documents brought today, but the fight is not over, and I'd like to bring up T.J. McManus to discuss from here.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you to the members of the media for coming today. My name is Thomas McManus from the law firm Sullivan, Papain, Block, McManus, Kafinas, and Canava. We are general counsel to the Uniformed Firefighters Association, and we represent thousands of 9/11 victims in their VCF claims. Today's a bittersweet day. It's bittersweet because we finally have the first semblance of transparency from the city. We finally will begin to know what they knew and when they knew it. But it's bittersweet because it took 24 years to get here. It's bittersweet because it took litigation, FOIL requests, and it took the Department of Investigation, through the efforts of Gail Brewer, to compel the city to find these documents. It's ironic that after all that time, they didn't find 68 pages hidden somewhere in the bellows of the DEP. They found 68 boxes. Did they lose a room where all these records were stored? It's shocking, and it's disheartening, and quite frankly, it's appalling. How could this happen, and who was behind it? Was it intentional misconduct, or just incompetence? What did they know, and when did they know it? That is what we're looking to find out here. And the way we're going to find out, quite frankly, is through these boxes. The truth is, this is just the first step in understanding everything that Andy was just talking about. These boxes are going to be culled through by the 9/11 Health Watch. And when they do so, we're going to learn more and probably have more strands to follow to get to the bottom of what happened here and why this information wasn't disclosed. It could lead to more questions, but it's setting us on the path to truth. Now, beyond just the terrible lack of transparency, I ask, at what cost was that lack of transparency? The World Trade Center Health Program has been around since about 2011. What could those doctors have done with information that's potentially in those boxes? If those boxes contain information about toxins that were in the air, shouldn't that have been studied for the last 24 years? Shouldn't that have been studied by the researchers back in the years following 9/11 or by the Health Watch since 2011? We add new cancers to the registry every so often, every couple of years. Would those cancers have been added earlier? Would the studies be further along? These are life-saving, life-altering medical information that we should have had all along. As Andy put it, firefighters need to know. They need to know that if they go into a terrorist attack, if they go into an explosion, if they go into a situation where their life is in danger, they need to know that when they come out, if they come out, that they or their families will get truth, will be told what they were exposed to, so they can make the smart decisions in dealing with their health, and they can live their lives accordingly. Transparency is not optional. The firefighters and first responders answered the call on 9/11. They did so despite the risk. Their sacrifices, their courage, and their service is a debt we all owe, we as New Yorkers and we as Americans. It's a debt that we will forever owe. The least we can do is give those first responders and their families truth. We all said we would never forget. It's time to learn the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
If the city doesn't comply and release the remainder of these documents, what's the union's next plan of action?
Well, we'll continue to demand that the FOIL be answered. I believe at some point they're going to have to open the rest of the boxes. If we have to go into the next administration. We're letting them know that we expect this to be a top priority, to come clean to what happened in New York City 24 years ago. 24 years ago, they made a choice to hide the evidence of what happened in 9/11. They should have used that evidence and those tests to prepare for the long-term health care of the people that were down there. Their decision they made was to just hide it. They could have been preparing and doing studies on what to expect. Instead, the studies came from the outside, and we had to wheel sick and dying New York City firefighters and police officers down to Washington to show them this is what happened. Had these documents been more readily available and studied ahead of time, we wouldn't have had to go through that. So what we're looking to do is hold this administration accountable to open the rest of those boxes. If not, we'll carry on to the next administration. But those boxes will be open, the evidence will be found, and we're going to find out exactly who lied to us back then, who knew. Because they made a very poor decision, a criminal decision, to hide it instead of studying it, to hide the truth instead of learning from it and preparing for it. We all knew that there were things down there. We should have been working on anticipating the health problems. Instead, we waited for the victims to show up, and the government denied they were even there until the evidence was overwhelming.
Have you had conversations with the Mondami transition team about what you expect and what you would like to happen here?
Yes and no. I was at the transition team meeting today, and it was it was a large crowd there. I haven't had a face-to-face meetings yet about these issues, but we do plan on it.
Question about, has anyone in here seen the 24 boxes so far?
We haven't seen them yet, no.
Who has, was Gail Brewer and some
Gail
lawyers?
Brewer, 9/11 Health Watch, which we work with, saw the boxes one day last week.
And got to look at inside some of them, right?
24 out of 68 of them they were allowed to look inside of. The other ones, they were off limits at the time.
So is there some sense of, just to give us an idea of what's there, is it, October 3rd, 2001, air contains blank? Is it data like that? Or
We believe it's a lot of studies. They've said it's a lot of studies, and again, some studies have been released outside of what's in those boxes. But what we're trying to make, the message of today is, we hope, and understand that may not be in there, but we hope and understand that may not be in there, is the chain of custody and the accountability of who put those boxes away. Here we are 24 years later, we know many people got sick. We're still trying to get more diseases added to the World Trade Center Registry. We're hoping that there's going to be documents in there that help make our cases on new diseases, but until we see it all, we don't know. And we need to know, if it's not in the boxes of who knew what and where, then that information has to be researched by the city, and we're going to keep looking for it of who hid these boxes. If there was an email stating, again, I mentioned the Harding memo, they talked about liability. I don't think the memo is in there that says, by the way, hide everything. Someone made that decision 24 years ago, and someone maintained that decision to keep it hidden. Do I think it's in the boxes? I don't know. Until we get through them, and 9/11 Health Watch will be going through the boxes diligently, we don't know what's in there until we find out. But if that's not in the boxes, if who knew what, where, and when is not in the boxes, that's something we're going to have to ask the city to go through their records and put some accountability to this. Because those boxes didn't end up in cold storage by themselves.
Is there a set time that you want to see these documents by, the rest of the documents by?
We've been waiting 24 years, and every date delayed is justice delayed. So, but we understand it's going to take a little more time to get to those boxes, but honestly, they found them. They should be open. So we're working with 9/11 Health Watch to see when they have their next viewing, and hopefully it'll be soon.
You mentioned Gail Brewer in this City Council resolution as well as the DOI investigation. Are you expecting more than just this initial tranche of documents to turn up? Are you seeing that will turn up more boxes or more stuff elsewhere?
And we haven't been told if there's any more or any less. But again, we've been told for 24 years there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's 68 boxes. So what they're continuing to hide, we don't know. But again, as I said, if the chain of custody of who hid these documents isn't in the boxes, we're going to look for that when it's all over.
But isn't one possibility it's just government incompetence? I think TJ alluded to that, whether it's someone who lied and said we got to cover this up, or someone just lost track of super important 9/11 data. In your mind, which one's worse?
Well, I think TJ is taking the legal tact of being kind and not making accusations, but I can't imagine 68 boxes of 9/11 related documents just getting shuffled away like, hey, who's going to need that? Let's put it in the back. You know, I just can't imagine that. You know, these are very pertinent records. And of all the years that we've been going after 9/11 healthcare funding and everything, no one ever thought like, hey, this may be useful. I just don't see it. I know it's been hidden. And it wasn't until the investigation was forced and the release was forced that they finally came to light.
Finally, can you talk a little bit about the personal impact of having these documents, what they would have done to the many people who were down there during that time and who continue to live down there?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think there was a great opportunity lost. These documents early on should have been used to help scientists anticipate, and scientists and doctors anticipate what illnesses members would come down with. It shouldn't have happened this way. Those documents should have been really readily available for everyone to study and anticipate what we would get sick from. People may have made different choices on their health care early on had they know what illnesses they were dealing with, because you get symptoms. And until you have a diagnosis, you don't know what's going on. Some people have been ignoring symptoms. I think if people would have had a better idea early on, they would have ignored symptoms. It causes you to get treatment later. So I think the opportunities mostly have been lost. The fact they've been hidden so long. And that's why we're really focusing on accountability today, to continue to open the documents that are there and fully go after the people that hid it, because they're the ones that caused, they didn't cause the damage, but they definitely prevented a cure from coming sooner.
What's holding up seeing the other boxes? You've seen 24. What's the difference between them?
What's the word they haven't been, they just haven't been released. I believe the word they're using is they haven't been released. So they may be saying that we couldn't get them in the van. I don't know. They haven't been released yet.
Is there an appearance before a judge? Is there a judge involved that can?
Well, it's the Department of Investigation. So if they continue to withhold these documents, we will, again, go to DOI and demand their release. But we believe at some point they should be open, but we just don't know what's going to be there.
Thanks, guys.
Anything else? Thank you.
Can you grab one just to? All right.